Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to another PMP Q&A session. We are discussing processes domain of latest PMP exam content outline. And in processes domain, our today's topic is project procurement management. So let's start. Question number 1. Richard, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, so as I read this, I tried to locate the problem and see what the question is. So it just says the project manager was informed that there might be minor discrepancies that could call in the efficacy claims. So what do we do out of the answers? I felt that, it's a might. We don't know this for sure. We haven't done our due diligence in trying to figure out what the problem is. So I felt that the best first action to address this situation is which was what the question is asking, is to analyze. So out of the answers, answer A said conduct an independent review of the clinical trial study. So we're going to dig deeper into analyzing what these problems might be, figure out because that way, before we do anything, before we go to talk to stakeholders, before we talk to the legal department, we need to figure out what is actually different. That way we can better communicate if there are glaring problems. How do we communicate that to our stakeholders? Don't just go up to them first and say, oh, we might have a problem here. No, just figure out what it is and then move forward.
All right, thank you. So you're saying it's not clear. The word which is used is might. So there might be a possibility, so we're not sure about it. So first we need to conduct an independent review and then we'll make informed decision, right? Okay, makes sense. All right, so anybody else? Mohan, you have chosen option B.
Actually, I chose B, but then I looked at A, so I picked A later on. So I'm kind of with Richard on this one too. I think it was might, and also the keyword is there's a minor discrepancy that could question the efficacy claim. So I was between A and B, and I went with A just because conducting I don't know what an independent review is, but I guess I picked A because the pharmaceutical companies typically would conduct a review of the clinical data just to show just to demonstrate the quality of the data and collection, etc., and understand if there's a discrepancy because of collection or whatever and what the claims are. So
all right, thank you. Swati, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I think before we, the reason I chose B was before we do conduct any reviews, I think it's first to inform the stakeholders.
Okay, so you're saying the principle that we have been learning again and again means open communication, transparency.
Of
all
the
right
issue.
Okay, perfect. In the first option, we have been learning a principle that is do the analysis first. So here we have analysis. Second is we are going to have transparency. Third, we will be discussing, and similarly, something would be relevant to D. Okay, great. Thank you. Francis, you have chosen option D.
Yes, I've chosen option B. I think the way I understand the question, I think we have to consult legal and the compliance departments to understand the implication of disclosing such information. Then once we know that, we can do independent review and then see how we can move from there. We have to know first like what we're dealing with. Just
So for example,
to get
yeah, if
go
they
ahead.
say withhold the information, would you be withholding? And why you would be doing that? Why you wanna withhold the information?
Like for the legal purposes, like people could sue you if that information, like if the pharmaceutical product that you produce could be harmful to people. I think for the consulting legal department, you have option on the way to disclose this information, like by following certain legal procedures when you're dealing with the public or the people who have been involved.
So, all right. So what I understood, you're saying it's a legal matter. It have legal repercussions. So
Yes,
that's why
we need more information.
okay, it's
We need more
better to talk
experts.
to your legal team, right? It has legal repercussions. So for example, if you disclose or if you don't disclose, okay?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Thank you. Marta, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I chose option D, given the fact that regulatory approval generally needs to go already with all reviews performed. So reason why I would consult with legal and compliance and making sure that they are the ones that hold that responsibility in communicating with the regulators and getting all the documentation in place, because that's not part of the PMO responsibility. So I chose option D from that perspective.
All right. So you have considered the concept of responsibility, that it's the legal department responsibility. So they're the right one who would be responding. Marta, what's wrong with conducting the independent review or confirming the results? Without
It's not part of PMO expertise to analyze the impacts of not complying with the regulatory requirement.
Okay, so you're saying as part of managing the project, it's not PM's job to look for regulatory compliance.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Here, one correction. It depends on the organization. It varies from organization to organization, right?
Right.
Some organization, if you recall, we talked about procurement systems. So some organizations, they have centralized procurement systems. Some organizations have decentralized procurement system. So if it is centralized, then one department would be conducting or managing procurements. If it is decentralized, PMs would be doing that. Similarly for legal and other actions as well. So you're right, but it varies from context to context. In some projects or organization, PMs are responsible to look for regulations and all this stuff. All right, okay. Anybody else, what's wrong with option A and option B? Why we should not do A and B? Anyone, please. Lala, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I think option A is already done in the question. So when you find out there's a discrepancy, right? So I think option A was done already in the question. So it's not like I'm assuming. So, and then the second option B is like before actually informing the stakeholders. So how does the stakeholder knows about regulatory compliance, right? So that's why I selected D. Not assuming, based on the question, I figured that they already discovered that there's a clinical data, discrepancies. So
All right. All right.
knowing that, I selected D.
Thank you. So, Lala, one thing, if you read the question again, it says, you discover that the clinical trial data might have minor discrepancies that could question the efficacy claim. This revelation comes at a critical moment. So the word might used, we are not sure about it yet, right? Whatever we have done, we are not sure about it. So means analysis is needed, right? Whenever there is uncertainty about the situation, you need to understand the situation. But the problem in this question is that this revelation comes at a critical moment when the product is about to receive regulatory approval. Now, one, you're not sure about it. Second, it's a critical moment. Remember, we did a question of inauguration, if you recall. We need to inaugurate a project in 2 days, and one of the vendor informed that they can't deliver the functionality. So what we did in that situation? In that situation, we immediately informed the stakeholders. Like, we have a problem, right? And this would impact the inauguration. We won't be able to inaugurate, and we are finding the alternative. We are finding the solution. So we went with transparency before analysis. So we said, okay, we will be conducting analysis, but before analysis, we said, okay, we will be informing the stakeholders. But the problem here is that what you will be informing to stakeholders here, the information that you have, you're not sure about it. So there are high chances the limited information that you would be providing that could create problem because you're not sure about it. On one side, you're not sure about it. On the other side, it's critical. So what you need to be, what you should be doing. Do you understand, everybody? So this is not a one type of problem in this question. There are two problems in this question. One, lack of understanding. Second, criticality. You have to inform, but you have to provide correct information that you don't have. If you don't inform and go to the analysis side, then again, you would be having legal repercussions, like why you didn't inform. And if the product gets approved and you hold the information, you will be held responsible. On the other hand, if you inform, what you would be informing, you're not sure about it. That would lead to uncertainty. The best course of action in this situation, when you're stuck between two options, seek advice. Correct answer is consult with legal and compliance department to understand the implications of disclosing or withholding the information. Ask them, okay, if we disclose, what's the outcome? If we don't disclose, what's the outcome? Because if you don't disclose, then there would be legal repercussions. And if you provide inaccurate data, then again, there would be legal repercussions. So to avoid uncertainty, to provide right information, the first thing that we will be doing is we will be consulting and seeking advice. So another principle that we have learned today, make informed decision, make informed choices. Whenever you have an option where you are involving people, where you are approaching for, experts, where you are seeking advice, go for that. Whenever you want to communicate and information is not there, seek advice, right? Correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. If you have any comment, feel free to ask. All right, next question. All right. Priya, would you like to explain your answers?
Yeah, so for procurement management plan, I chose C.
Okay.
For 2 procurement strategy, I chose D.
Why you have chosen procurement management plan in C?
Because it's the company is trying to determine the best delivery method for engaging third-party services. So you could have different type of contracts.
Mhm.
So I think that could be a reason that that is probably outlined in the management plan, procurement
Mhm.
management. The procurement strategy, it says it's setting option D, the firm is setting up a comprehensive approach for acquiring all necessary materials and labor. So detailing the processes and procedures. So I thought it was a more comprehensive approach. So I chose strategy, procurement strategy for that. For the third one, statement of work, I think it was B because it says government agencies outsourcing the development of a public health database, requiring requiring a detailed documentation that explains the services expected. So that's a SOW. And request for information is A. Because it requires preliminary details about features. So that kind of, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Francis, do you agree with Priya's answers?
All of them.
All of them you agree, okay. Anyone who disagrees
No.
with Priya?
I disagree with some of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think the A where with the procurement management plan, I put D.
Mhm.
Because the construction of film is setting up a comprehensive approach. So this is more of a procurement management plan.
Okay.
And then another one, I think, where I mismatched with her, it's on B. I put read the statement of work. It's more of a scope. So statement of work is a scope. So that's why I put I put B as the government agency, which is outsourcing the development for the public health database. I think the
Yeah.
rest is okay with her.
I think she has already chosen. She has also chosen 3B.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Then I think I missed that.
All right. So
Yeah.
only you don't agree with first option, right? 1D. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anybody else? Do you agree with Francis and Priya? So 1D.
I think
I think-
one is D.
Yeah, one's
Okay.
D, two is C.
2 is
It's,
C.
Yes, 2 is C.
Yeah,
Yes.
2 is C.
Okay. So 2
And
is
three-
C. Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
3B, 4A.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just 1 and 2 that were backwards.
Okay, so Richard, could you please explain 2C? What is that?
That is, so the software company is determining the best delivery method. So they're implementing a strategy
Mm-hmm.
For engaging third-party services for a new mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not talking about, they're just talking about how to deliver this thing, and they're trying to figure that out. The reason why I went 1D, because ultimately you go through all of them, that's the only one that was left, but it's talks when it says processes and procedures, those are detailed in the procurement management plan.
Perfect. Absolutely. So we have been discussing this and learning this almost since the start. Like management plan contains processes and procedures. So detailed processes and procedures are documented in management plan. So 1 would be D. So a construction firm is setting a comprehensive approach for acquiring all necessary materials and labor for a new office complex, detailing processes and procedures. So 1 would be D. Procurement strategy contains type of contracts and delivery method. So types of contract, which type of contract you will be negotiating, that is documented in procurement strategy. So 2 would be C. as written here. And statement of work is the scope. You want to learn what exactly you would be doing. So services expected from the technology provided. That is statement of work. And request for information, you want to learn about potential vendors and the services and products they offer. So request for information is about features of the similar product available in the market. So I hope it is clear. So 1D, 2C, 3B, 4A. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Marta, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I chose option B, given the fact that there were two bidders that have raised queries with regards to the elements of the bidding documents. So I would conduct a pre-bid meeting and invite only those that have raised queries to address their concerns.
All right, means to the point, precise.
Yes.
No need to bother others who have clarity, right?
No, it may cause confusion.
Perfect. Thank you. Daniela, you have chosen option D.
Yes, I thought in the spirit of transparency, everybody who submitted to this bid should be aware of what has been discussed. And everybody has a chance to ask questions and clarify. So face to face or virtual, that's what you taught us in the other sessions last week. It's always more valuable. It's gonna reduce any well, not any. It has a higher chance to reduce any unclarities and have everybody on the same page, so everybody has exactly the same information.
All right. Thank you, Daniela. So there are some people who have chosen option A. I don't know why. Nilesh, you have chosen option A. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, hi Amar. Yeah, so question is clearly talking about the project manager has to ensure that all the bidders has the clear understanding and the process, procurement process, right, remain transparent, fair. So in order to meet this requirement, he has to conduct and he has to invite all the bidders in one room and share all this information. And should it will also help him to understand whether all the bidders has the clear understanding of the process and transparency is there.
Okay. So what's wrong with option D? This is what Daniela was explaining, like transparency and everything.
Yeah. So here also we are talking about face-to-face or the virtual meeting. As we are, understanding that the face-to-face meeting is always more effective than the virtual meeting. Option D is talking about either face-to-face or the virtual meeting. Whereas the option A is clearly talking about the face-to-face meeting, right? It's a conference meeting. All the bidders are coming in one room. So in both the option, I chose A because there's a face-to-face meeting is there with the bidders.
All right, but Nilesh, in option A, it doesn't talk about the conferences in person. It could be virtual conference. So it's not mentioned. Option D is more specific. It tells you whether it would be face-to-face or virtual or both. Option A is silent on that. If your point is D's virtual and face-to-face, option A doesn't talk about that. Does it make sense, Nilesh?
Yeah, correct.
All right, thank you. Right. Anadika, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, but I think I'm gonna go with D. I didn't read D properly before answering. I
Thank
think
God,
D.
thank God in the exam you won't be having such distractions. You will stick to your answer. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think with D, this is a clearer way to rectify this issue. You know, whether it's virtual or face to face, I think this will solve the problem. We all be this.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, let's take one more comment. Priya, you have chosen option A.
Yes, option A is the technical term. Bidders conference is usually the defined meeting in contracting for, I think, for managing any kind of questions from any bidders. One of the ethics in contracting is to make sure that all the bidders get the same information. So it's treated equally and transparently and fairly. So that's why I chose option A.
What's wrong with option D, Priya?
Option D, it might be good, but I like the word bidders conference. That seemed to be more official.
All right, thank you. Okay. Richard wanna say something, but no, Richard. Okay, go ahead.
Option D says that you're clarifying contract terms. This is a bid.
Absolutely.
There's no contract yet, so you stick with option A.
That's it. So we are not going to talk about contracts here, right? We're talking about bidding process right now. So there is some confusion regarding some elements of bid, right? It clearly says that regarding certain elements of the bidding documents. So contracts, it would come later. Once you follow the bidding process, you get the bids, you evaluate them, you respond to the queries of the bidders, conduct bidders conference, you do the evaluation based on evaluation criteria, you select the vendor, right? Then you negotiate terms and conditions of the contract with the selected vendor. That comes later. So the problem with option D is that it's not about face-to-face virtual meetings or, yes, Priya said it's a bidders conference. That's a technical term. That's correct. But the logic behind D is that, as Richard mentioned, we don't negotiate contract terms and conditions, or we don't clarify at this stage. And one of the principles is transparency. We make sure that same information is available to all the bidders, whether they have requested something or they haven't. So for example, if one bidder asks for something, the answer to that query goes to all the potential bidders, all the interested parties, so that everybody, they have same information, right? So there shouldn't be any biasness in the system. Correct answer is option A. So B, we have already talked about. C is not relevant. Document comprehensive responses to the queries and send them only to the bidders. So we have already talked about it. Like we will be sending information to all the potential bidders, right? Correct answer is option A. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Mohan, you have chosen option B.
Right. I chose option B. So I was between B and D. D just eliminated D because it was very hands-offish option where obviously you're doing as part of the contract suggest, but then you're requesting for a corrective action with a specified time frame. But B, on the other hand, is you're doing as per the contract, you're requesting the formal meeting with the vendor, being inclusive, and also trying to figure out the root cause of the compliance issue and working with the mutually agreeable resolution.
All right, so you're saying request a formal meeting with the vendor to discuss the non-compliance and then seek a mutually agreeable solution, right? Thank you. Okay, Lala, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, so I eliminated A, cross it out right away. You cannot terminate the contract. I eliminated the C, recover payment. I mean, my they did not deliver the what was it? So A, I crossed it out, C, I crossed it out to be, right on point. And then between D and B, the D it's saying notify the vendor in writing. What if the vendor misses that email or writing, right? That never takes a place. So I crossed it out. That wasn't like a proactive way of notifying the vendor. So that kind of threw me out. And then I went with the B, just speak with the vendor and then tell them like, you delivered non-compliance and then come with a resolution.
All right, thank you. So you're saying option D, notifying and documenting, it's not an effective way. Effective way
Yeah,
is.
but what if, like let's say if I send an email to the vendor, right, and then they never see the email, or even if it's a formal letter, whatever it is, what if they don't see it and it's just not kind of like a active way of like resolving an issue if you have it, right? So might as well just schedule a meeting, speak with them, this is what happened, and then come with a resolution.
All right, thank you. Okay. Mary, you have chosen option D.
Yes, first it will be documented,
Mhm.
and then it will be notified in writing, email, then maybe you do phone call asking him if he received email. At least that's how we do it, or follow-up email. If you don't see reaction in 2 days at least, then you follow up with another email, and it will be also request of corrective action and maybe mentioning some time frame. Depends, everything, about negotiations and and all of those things there, and then requesting formal meeting probably would be this to discuss about all of these issues.
Mary, are you saying this based on your experience? Like, do you do this? Do you follow the process? Or this is based on some principle that we have learned, or on which basis you're saying
Yeah, it's much more based on experience, like how we
experience,
do
right?
it.
All right, thank you. Manmeet, you have chosen option D.
The only reason I picked option D is I was confused between B and D. But B seems more relevant because when it comes to project management or anything that we're doing legally or openly, we have to send everything in written. And first of all, we have to document the issue, notify the vendor in written. Even if he does not see it or see it, I have proof that I have sent him an email or written message or anything and request a corrective action within the time frame, because obviously project has a time frame. We have to give him a time frame to come up with the solution that matches with the quality that we expect. So D option comes with the better solution as compared to B.
All right. Absolutely. Correct answer is option D, reason. we communicate, we go for face-to-face meeting when we have misunderstanding, right? When we have difference of opinion, so we prefer have direct communication and talk about that and then come up with a negotiated solution. The problem here is that there is a violation of the contract or the quality is not in accordance with the contract. So in these contractual matters or legal matters, the very first thing we do is we document the thing. We document in writing, we follow the procedure because contracts are all about documentation. When you document it, when you bring things in writing, then you start negotiating. And as Mary mentioned, whenever you have a non-compliance, you send an email or whatever the process is. If you don't get a response, then you follow up, then you can go for meeting or something else, right? It's a contractual matter. There is a non-compliance. So the very first thing is document it. Once it is documented, then you can start negotiating. If there is a difference of understanding, whenever there is a difference of understanding, go with face-to-face meeting and try to understand the perspective of other. But here we're not talking about there is a difference. Here we're not talking about difference in perspective. Here we're talking about there's a non-compliance. If there is a non-compliance, follow the procedure. What's the procedure? Whenever there is an issue, whenever there is a non-compliance, document it. Once it is documented, you can start the next process. Correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right. So Daniela, you have chosen option D.
Yes, which means it's incorrect. You chose me first. Yes, I was in between A or D. It's not. I didn't saw that apply penalties would solve anything. Alternative supplies, I wouldn't do this at this point. So could have negotiated a partial delivery, but I saw that it's, well, to me, it looks more logical because there is a potential impact and this needs to be communicated to the stakeholders and need to take into consideration that delay will happen. And so the plan needs to be adjusted. That's the reason.
All right. Thank you. You're saying there would be an impact. So we need to do analysis and plan needs to be adjusted. Thank you. Marta, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I chose option D due to the same reason as Daniela explained. And also besides the fact that they cannot afford any delays. So I don't see any mechanisms that I could work in order to mitigate or even negotiate. So this is why I chose option D.
All right. Thank you. So no mechanism, nothing to negotiate. Right. Perfect. Okay. Nilesh, you have chosen option B.
So option C is clearly, talks about the penalty which project manager, doesn't do it. So then I was confused about the option A and B. Option if you talk about the option D, so it talk about the delay, and where in the question it is completely saying that project cannot afford any delay. So option D will also get eliminated. So option A is talking about the partial delivery, and in the question it clearly vendor has clearly informed that they will not be able to deliver essential material by the agreed deadline. So best option according to me looks the looking for the alternative supplier for the required material to get the material on time. So that's option B looks more relevant to this one.
All right, thank you for detailed explanation. So you have used elimination technique to come up with the right answer. Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Right.
All right, so let's take one more comment from someone who has chosen option A. Priya, you have chosen option A.
Yes. So the I think I'm in a pacifist mood today. So negotiation is always good, especially when it's a critical project and you cannot afford any delays. You might be able to get some delivery done by a certain date. So I think you can still negotiate, and all the other options can also be done at the same time. But I would negotiate with the existing vendor, get them to see if there's any possibility of them being able to do a partial delivery, and then I would reassess the project schedule to adjust the delay, making sure that if just prepare for that in case something happens. And then I would also look for alternative suppliers, and then if they are unable to meet the contract deadlines as per contract, then I would apply penalties as the last resort. So I think starting with negotiation is always to our advantage. So
All right, thank you for detailed explanation. But Priya, question says, supplier informs you that they will not be able to deliver essential materials by the agreed deadlines due to a sudden shortage of resources. So what
right.
exactly you would be negotiating? They're saying we're not able to do that. We're not able to provide essential material. What you want to negotiate with them?
Maybe they're not able to supply all of the material. Maybe they would be able to supply some of it. So maybe you can become a preferred vendor, preferred buyer by just negotiating with them.
No, yes, it's not a problem of being a perfect buyer or not. They're saying it's shortage of resources. They don't have resources, so they cannot provide you. So during the critical phase of your project, a key supplier informs you. So it's not a small vendor. It's not at the start of the project. It's not you're just thinking about a project. In the middle of the project, one of the suppliers says that there's a shortage and they cannot meet the demand. So the problem here is that it's not like that they're intentionally doing that or you're not important for them. There is a genuine problem at their end. They're saying we have shortage of resources, right? And we won't be able to meet your deadlines. And whatever you're saying, that perfectly makes sense, but there is no indication in the question that says like they have material, but you are not the preferred buyer for them, or they can deliver some of the requirements, they can meet some of the requirements. So there is no such indication in the question. Your logic is right, but that is based on some assumptions which are not part of the question. So whenever we answer, we try to stick to the information that is provided. Yes, if the question says they can meet some of your demands, or they are prioritizing other vendors or other buyers over you, then definitely whatever you're saying, that perfectly makes sense. There's a room for negotiation. You can negotiate. But here, there is no room for negotiation. They're saying they're not able to do that. So if they're not able to do that, but you have to deliver project on time, you cannot afford any delay, you would go for any alternative supplier, right? To solve the problem. Yes, we do penalties, but penalties are reactive approaches. They are not there to solve the problem, right? They are just to make up for the damages and for that stuff. So what we will be doing is we look for alternative suppliers for the required material to ensure project continuity. Yes, if we are not able to do B, then of course we won't be having any option. Correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right. Marta, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I chose option D because they are not fully defined and the scope may evolve. And if I request detailed documentation and justification, that would help me better understand the deliverables.
All right. So you're saying nothing is fixed. So to have detailed documentation would help you understand what's going on.
Correct. To
Okay.
take further decisions.
To take further decisions. Thank you. Mary, you have chosen option A.
Yes, so A and D look to me very similar. But then like closely monitor the project progress and budget. So it's like monitoring progress.
Okay.
And regular updates and adjustments as needed. So it means like you're following all the work while this more to me looks like at some end phase or something like that. So I prefer option B because of this monitoring progress and regular updates and adjustments as needed.
All right. Thank you. So you're saying the problem here is monitoring. So you need to look for project progress and regular updates. Okay. Thank you. Alan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I also choose D because, as Marta mentioned, the scope is not defined. So at this point, if we understand what exactly is needed for the project, we can move forward and understand correctly the requirements.
Okay, right. Thank you. So request detailed documentation and justification. All right. Thank you. Okay, Kokila, you have chosen option B.
Because the project requirement is not fully defined and the scope may evolve, it's hard to monitor because the scope is not defined. So it evolves. So we need to extend the time and material contract, right? So but there is a risk how much it might exceed the budget. So how do we handle that? So in that way, I was feeling that risk can be handled by putting a cap. Okay, let's not exceed this total cost.
All right. Thank you. Nilesh, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, Amar. So I'll go with the elimination technique first. C is completely out of this one. Then talking about uh, yeah, so talking about the D, so it is about the documentation and justification as per the actual bills and material. Uh, but here actually what we are talking about to to whether to accept or this one to go with the contract. So in A, if you accept the contract, then again it will lead to the big risk. So that we don't want to take. If we choose option B, we can put a cap for not to extend the exceed the budget. So that's the reason I chose to option D.
All right. So you have chosen the answer just because of negotiation word, right?
Right, right.
Okay, right. Okay. One of the problems in T&M contract, time and material contract, is that we don't have readily available statement of work. We exactly don't know how much work we will be doing, right? So work is not defined. When work is not defined, as Kokila mentioned, there are higher chances that the cost would go up. But cost would go up by how much? Is there any limit? So one of the biggest challenges or risk in T&M contract is limitless cost. We don't have any idea about the cost. What would be the project cost? Because scope of work is not clear at all. So what we do is in T&M contract, in time and material contract, we say, okay, we will be paying you, let's suppose on man hour basis or man month basis, but this is the maximum time you would be spending on this. Anything more than that, we won't be paying for that. So to fix the vendor, like there is some limit. It's not like that vendor keeps on working and keeps on working without completing the work. So vendor, they should have something in their mind like, okay, this is what we need to deliver. Of course, scope would evolve, but this is the maximum that we can spend. So what we do is in T&M contract to have some level of benchmark, what we do is we cap the cost. Okay, this is T&M contract. We will be paying per hour, but the maximum we will be spending on this project would be $100,000. So that we have some idea, okay, this is the maximum cost we will be spending. So when you have a cap, now it's less risky to exceed the cost from that particular point. So the highest risk in T&M contract is no idea about the project cost because scope of work is not known. So what you do is you fix the cost maximum limit, then you would be okay, that would be the maximum risk that we can take. Anything beyond that, we won't be spending. So negotiate a cap on the total cost or not to exceed cost. So it's not because the word negotiate is there, right? It's not just negotiate. You say, okay, maximum we will be spending this. So it's not because of negotiation, it's because of the biggest risk in T&M contract. So the biggest risk in T&M contract is no idea about the cost. So we need to fix it. Fixing does not mean we will be spending exactly the same amount. Fixing means that's the maximum upper limit. We won't be going beyond that so that we have some idea. We can allocate some budget to that particular project. Correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Daniela, you have chosen option C.
Yes, the reason is it's gonna have a focus on developing mitigation strategies to deal with this situation. So it's a proactive approach to an issue that you know it's gonna happen. And because the others didn't seem appropriate, you don't adjust the overall project, you don't know for how long it's gonna be longer. So A, it's out. Initiate stakeholder analysis to identify influential figures. What would they do? B, I thought it was out as well. D, begin approval process early by submitting preliminary documents. So this implies the somebody already did a lot of analysis and you already have something to, I don't know, D didn't seem appropriate either. So it's C for me.
All right.
So you do something about it to mitigate this.
All right. Thank you. So I like your comment. I like your comment about D. Like D says, begin the approval process early by submitting preliminary. So it means you have done the analysis. You have analyzed all the potential solutions and you have chosen one of the solutions, and that solution is okay. We will be starting the approval process early. Means you have identified the risk, you have conducted the analysis, you have performed the alternative analysis, you have come up with various possible solutions, and you have chosen one of the best mitigation action. That is, we will be starting the approval process early. But the question doesn't talk about that. You realize that regulatory approvals in one of the countries are likely to cause significant delays. So option D directly jumps to the solution without analysis. So we are excluding option D. So option D is not correct. All right. Thank you, Daniela. Right. Mohan, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, I basically eliminated all the options and came to A. Again, it's in planning phase, right? Where there's these regulatory requirements, environment and cultural expectations they're expecting a delay. So C is basically conducting a risk assessment focused on this issue, develop a specific mitigation strategy, which is, you know, later as part of once you have identified the risk and assess what the risk is. So I eliminated that. Initiate a stakeholder analysis to identify influential figures. Again, this assumes that you could expedite the approval process with a stakeholder that you could find is influential in the process. So I eliminated that, and A was the only option that I thought might be good for, you know, you're kind of building some timeline, some contingency in the timeline to resolve this issue in terms of the potential delay.
All right. So you're saying you're adding some buffer or contingency to account for potential delays. Okay, right. Makes sense. Marta, do you see anything wrong with Mohan's explanation?
I think you would then have to have some kind of a change request.
Okay.
Because you have regulatory impacts and then you may have, you know, reputational issues as well.
All right. So you're saying, yes, you can do that, but for that you need a change request. You agree with the option?
I don't agree with the option because I would perform a risk assessment.
Oh, I know that. I know you have chosen C, but let's talk about A.
Okay. I wouldn't add potential delays right from the start, because then I'm not focusing on the plan, on the scope.
All right. Thank you for explanation. So the problem with option A is that one, as Marta is saying, like adjust the overall product schedule, it requires change request. Okay, one correction, it doesn't require change request because we are still in the planning phase. When you are in the planning phase means you're developing the plans. When you're developing the plans, you don't need any change request. So it's not a problem about change request. Again, you're directly jumping towards the solution. So the problem is there are potential delays and you're saying, okay, no problem. Let's add some reserves. So it's a reactive approach, means you have accepted, yes, there would be delays and we have only one option, that is extending the schedule. You understand? So you are directly jumping to one solution without analysis, right? There could be multiple options. So for example, option D could be one of the options. So the problem with D and A is same. You're jumping directly to the conclusion or options or solution without analysis. We can do A and D, but that would be based on some analysis, some assessment, some cost benefit analysis, some alternative analysis. So A and D are excluded. Okay, option C and B initiate a stakeholder analysis to identify influential figures. Again, we are jumping to the conclusion. We are saying, okay, there is one solution, and that is stakeholders could help us. Now let's look for stakeholders. You understand that? You're saying there is a problem, and we have only one solution, that is stakeholders, influential stakeholders could help us. Now, okay, let's go identify them. So you're again jumping directly to the conclusion. What we will be doing, there is a potential risk. There is a problem that could potentially occur. What you will be doing, you will be conducting a risk assessment, right? So question clearly says, what action should you take first to manage this situation effectively? First, you would analyze. So conduct a risk assessment to understand what is it, what are the alternatives available, and what's the most suitable option. Option C is right. So there might be a little bit confusion. I'm not sure. There could be because of the word issue here, right? So don't be confused like it's talking about risk and using word issue, because we have talked about the difference between risk and issue. So it's actually an uncertain future situation that is a risk. Correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Alan, you have chosen option D.
Yes. According to the statement, I choose D because it says that it's currently in execution stage. So from my understanding, it's already on the way. So we need to conduct ongoing procurement monitoring to verify that the execution of this is going okay.
All right, thank you. So you're saying the project is in execution. So make sure it progresses successfully or complete successfully, you will be monitoring the project. All right, thank you. Mary, you have chosen option C.
Well, yes, it looks like quite there is probably risk associated with this because project depends significantly. It significantly depends on timely delivery throughout different project phases. So there is two important words here, significantly dependent and throughout different project phases. So there is again associated risk, and I guess that contingency plan is maybe probably the best answer for this.
All right. But Mary, question doesn't talk about any risk. It doesn't talk about risk has occurred. There is no such information in the question. All right. Thank you. Okay, Marta, you have chosen option D.
I chose option D because it's already on execution stage. So from a project management perspective, what I would need to make sure is that from a procurement standpoint, there is a monitoring process in place that I can validate that the deliverables are being delivered on a timely manner.
All right. Thank you. So you're saying project is in execution, so same like Alan's answer. Thank you. Nilesh, you have chosen option D.
Yes. So according to me, for making any project successful, monitoring is very much important throughout the project life cycle. So that's the reason I choose option D, because no in rest of the option monitoring is not mentioned. So I thought monitoring is the best tool to see whether the project is on time or so that's the reason I choose option D.
Thank you. Priya, you have chosen option D.
Yes. I felt that since we were in the execution stage, the best option was to monitor the situation. Because there is, as you said, there is no risk yet, or there is no indication that there is any. There is a risk associated overall, but there is no indication that it's going to occur. So we don't have to go for option C. Yeah.
All right. One thing, there is no indication of risk in the statement, so we won't be going with option C. Option B, instruct the procurement department to choose vendor according to existing procedures. Yes, they would be choosing according to the procedure, but how that would ensure project is completing successfully, right? That is a good thing to do, but that would not ensure like project would be completing successfully at the end, right? It is one of the factors. Manage a vendor selection process to secure the necessary products. It's the same thing, exactly same thing written in a different way. Correct answer is conduct ongoing procurement monitoring during the project lifecycle. Constant monitoring would help you complete the project on time. If there is any sort of variation, then you will be taking corrective action and you will be doing the adjustment. If you're not monitoring the project, then it won't be possible to complete the project within time, cost, and quality standards. Correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. All right, so this involves continuously overseeing vendor performance, tracking delivery timelines, and addressing any issues or delays promptly. So this is a proactive approach where you will be managing your project. Next question. All right. Daniela, you have chosen option B.
Yes, so by elimination, A was really not an option. Train the vendor, well, you wouldn't do that. I don't think it's appropriate. Maintain the current accepting the schedule. It's not really addressing. It's not gonna help you with the solution. So I have chosen B. So I would negotiate a hybrid approach. So he knows his own methodology, but if you allow frequent updates, you can mitigate any misunderstandings, basically, between the two views of the world. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my take.
Thank you. Kokila, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, so I felt I use the elimination technique. So maintain the current vendor arrangement, accepting the schedule misalignment as a constraint. That's not going to work. So I eliminated D. Train the vendor on agile principle is not their job. So I eliminated C. Negotiate a hybrid approach that allows more frequent updates from the vendor. That also won't work because they are practicing agile, and we cannot ask them to change their practices. So I felt the better option is to assess and evaluate replacing the vendor with one experience in agile methodologies.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Richard, you have chosen option C.
Yeah, so just like everybody else, we're just trying to eliminate things. So I think we can all agree that D is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
A, I did not feel like we should replace this guy automatically. I try to find what the question is, and I understand like it's not our job to train the vendor, but it says on principles, not the entire flow of agile. So basically, we're just letting him know what we believe as an agile team, and then adjust our release schedule or his, he's just have him give us what his release schedule is, and we adjust our sprints to fit his release. And I felt that was a little bit more collaborative, and that could, and then maybe we can open his eyes to the agile world and have him, people are set in their ways, but if you show them that what we're doing and how our agile methodology allows us to be flexible, even though he still is set in his ways, it could help him, better understand what the agile thing is. It makes him ultimately a better vendor because now he understands how he can incorporate his methodologies with agile methodologies and how that would look. I didn't feel like a hybrid approach would work because this doesn't necessarily that methodology was chosen before this project was going on. So if the project does not require a hybrid methodology, I did not feel that it worked for this particular project. And there's nothing in here saying that because it has to fit, or just because one person believes one thing, one person believes another thing, does not mean that's a hybrid approach. The project dictates what the methodology is going to be. So that's why I ultimately landed on C.
All right. So option A, assess and evaluate replacing the vendor. So we are midway through the project. It's not like that we are just initiating the project and we can consider, okay, hire somebody else. We are in the middle of the project. So replacement is the last resort. If nothing works, we go with replacement. So that's the last resort. We'll see if it is the last resort or not. Negotiating a hybrid approach. We have already done a similar question in first 10 sessions when we talked about selecting the right project management methodology. So hybrid approach, we use hybrid when part of project needs waterfall approach and part of the project needs agile approach. When you are doing combination of work, half of the work is industrial work, half of the work is knowledge work, or some part is knowledge work, some part is industrial work, we can go with hybrid approach. Here we're not talking about it. It says software development project using agile methodology. So you have a software development project, you need to be agile, so hybrid would not work there. So we can simply exclude option B as well. So B and D are excluded. Sorry, B is excluded. A, we have already talked about that. It's the last resort. Maintain the current vendor arrangement, accepting the schedule misalignment as a constraint. No, we don't do that. It doesn't address that. So what we will be doing is we will be collaborating with the vendor. And one thing that is mentioned by Alan in the chat, Alan is saying also is a supplier with robust solution. So if we look at the question, it says the selected vendor is known for their robust solutions. So it's not a new vendor. It's not someone, or it's not an entity which is poor performer, or they have a bad track record. They have good track record. They are known for their good solutions. So as Richard mentioned, we just need some sort of alignment, and we can guide them about agile principles. We can collaborate with them to have a middle ground where we'll say, okay, if you do this, then you will be meeting our requirements. So correct answer is train the vendor on agile principles and collaborate to adjust their release schedule to fit your sprint. So train does not mean you're formally training, arranging trainings for their employees. Training means mentoring them, having discussion with them, sharing knowledge, sharing your perspective, communicating what you think, what are your thoughts about agile, how agile works in your organization. So correct answer is option C. We will be coaching, mentoring, training vendors. So whenever, remember, it's a principle or mindset, whenever there is a knowledge gap from which is exhibited by any party, right? What we will be doing is we will be mentoring, we will be coaching, we will be helping them understand the situation, right? Correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. All right, so thank you, Alan. Alan said also is a supplier with robust solution, so we can't eliminate. All right, next question. All right. Priya, you have chosen option C.
Yes. The word assess kind of, was the reason I picked it. I think before you do anything, you want to assess the situation. So even if you want to arrange a meeting with the stakeholders, you need to have enough information to see what information you can provide them. So I think that would be a better option. The other ones were not on my radar. Yeah.
All right, so word assess misled you. So problem with option C is that you're only concerned with your project. You're concerned about delays, you're concerned about cost. You're not talking about preservation of the site here. So what's happening here, you're the project manager, you're building a new commercial complex, you're in the execution, and unexpected archaeological find is uncovered on the site. So you have found something that is historical, that is important, potentially of significant historical importance, right? It has significant history. So this discovery could lead to delays in the project timeline and impact on the budget. So you're concerned about timeline and budget, but you're ignoring what would be the impact on that thing which is of great historical importance? You understand, Priya, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So your focus is on time and project and budget, but the question doesn't talk about time and budget here. The question is about your discovery that is of significant importance. So whatever will be happening because of that. So option C is not correct. It's a misleading word. So that's why I intentionally use these words again and again so that you don't just jump to the question by reading one word. So C is not correct. All right. Most of you have chosen, okay. Lala, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, so I said halt the construction because since it has a significant historical, thing. So what if you lead the construction and you damage that, right? So that's why I'd rather like halt the construction and notify the authorities like, hey, we discovered here, and then move forward.
All right. So thank you, Lala. Whenever Richard wants to say something and I'm not giving him chance, he says this happened to me. This happened to me today. I have experienced this yesterday. Okay, Richard, go ahead. What happened to you?
This didn't happen to me today. It just happened in one of our schools. We had so I'm from Maryland, and we're right, but one of our schools is in historic Annapolis, and they were excavating a site, and they dug up remains. So they had to halt and bring in an archaeologist to identify the body. Or it wasn't. It was like a 300-year-old body, but it was just one of those things that they dug up. So they just had to stop and sort it out, and then they just did what they were supposed to do, and then they ended up finishing the project.
All right, correct. So whenever we have something like that is of significant importance. So as Lala mentioned and Richard mentioned, we immediately stop whatever we are doing just to make sure that we don't damage that discovery, which is of significant historical importance. So first stop the work and then, take other actions, whatever you want to take. So option B, halt the construction and notify the relevant authorities to take appropriate action. Correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation.
I have a question.
Yes, Alan, go ahead.
I remember some question before that we mentioned also kind of when we expose person lives or like healthy. So in my mind, I'm making like kind of relation between something between the law and between the people healthy, and we need to stop right there, and that is out of our hands.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
So if
Okay,
there's a
perfect.
concern about if there's a pure risk about people's health, right? If there is a violation of any compliance or regulation, or if there is a legal requirement, that is our top priority. Perfect. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We are done with our today's lesson. This is very important lesson, right? A lot of new concepts I intentionally added so that you understand how things are different when we go by the book, when we follow the process. And contracts are very document oriented. We document each and everything. We follow the steps, right? Because a lot of legal and financial implications are involved. I hope you have learned a lot. So I'll see you tomorrow with an interesting lesson. Take good care of yourself. Bye.
Thank you, Omar.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Amar.